Hello everyone, how have you been? I hope all of you are keeping well and safe, and I hope the pandemic is not troubling you too much. And if you actually are in a difficult phase, I really hope that all of that gets lifted somehow and you feel better again and you feel happier again. So for the time being, what we can do is keep on to our hopes, stick on to our hopes, and try the best to make everything as beautiful as we can, to love our loved ones and to share all kinds of positivity so that they have the strength to hold on to. So in the last class we were actually discussing what literature is, and from my module's perspective I told you that literature is not just something that we read for pleasure and forget for some emotional catharsis, but rather I told you that literature is a very socially significant text, that every literary work is actually a product of a lot of thinking which is inspired from the society. So when an individual tries to write something, whether even if it is completely fictional, he is not free from the influences of his society. The way in which his society is structured, the way in which the people in his society think, all these come into his work. Even when J.K. Rowling was trying to create a magical work like the Harry Potter series, what happened? Could she actually think of a world completely different from her own society? No. I would say no, because even when she was creating a magical land where anything was possible, anything that the human imagination can produce was possible, despite all that, there were discriminations there. There were the mudbloods, there were the purebloods, just like we have racism and casteism here. So what I'm saying is that the human unconscious actually absorbs many elements from the society in which we live in. And when a writer reproduces or not reproduces, but produces something through his imagination, these social influences strongly reflect there. So imagine that you belong to a patriarchal society. Your ideas would also be shaped in that way, and your writing would also be shaped in that way. When I made the statement in the last year's class, when we were beginning this, the very first question that I got was, "Sir, what actually is patriarchy? What does that mean?" So a very innocent question from one of my children. So I'm actually given a very difficult task here, because these ideas like ideology, power, and social structures are not very easy to understand. And you guys have just finished your schooling and you have come to college expecting literature to be a beautiful garden where you could pluck beautiful roses of poetry and novels and stories and have a beautiful phase of your life. So here comes a guy who's explaining so complicated things and we are struggling to make sense of. But the thing is, these are very essential things. That is, at some point in life, we do have to understand how the society around us functions, and what are the driving motives of the society around us, how the society around us is structured so that we can be better citizens or better components of the society. Only if we understand how actually the working mechanisms of the society and how they are reflected in literature, then we might be able to get a better perspective about the life around and probably look at life a bit differently. Because most of the time at this age, our perceptions of life could be rather naive. It's not necessary, but could be rather naive. We might not see many things. We might not see many ideological underpinnings which work behind literature or even life. So this paper that we are learning, or this module that we are learning, is actually going to be an attempt to give you a sense of what is happening in the background. Most of the time we probably see only the front stage of literature, but there are many things working in the background of literature, and they matter. These background activities matter, and these background ideas and conceptions and structuring matters. So we will look into all that. We will look into the notion of ideology. We will look into the notion of power. Now they might seem completely alien terms to you. Even if you must have heard these terms, you may not have learnt them in the proper sense in which they are related to literature and literary studies. So this is not going to be an easy task, because these are very complicated concepts, and I personally learnt all those during my master's degree only, through my teachers, through my peers, and through my own personal reading. So you are going to be acquainted with those concepts in the initial stages of your induction into the course itself. So don't worry, I'll try to make it as easy as possible, as dear to you as possible. So don't worry, we are going to learn a bit of ideas that will help you analyze not just literature, but life better in general. So without much further ado, we will delve into the next video. Thank you.